Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation, today's webinar. I really appreciate you taking the time to dial in to this webinar. My name is Derek Devine. I'm the Business Development Manager here with Edmentum, and I have the great pleasure of introducing today's webinar. I think we've all seen a lot of changes in the education world over the last couple of months. Particularly with schools having to put a real focus on distance learning and implementing a distance learning strategy, not only for the short term, but looking in towards the new academic year as well. And today we've the great pleasure of welcoming Peter Meltzer, who is the founder and director of Surat Thani International School in Thailand. Before we get started, I just want to raise a couple of things. Peter is going to take over very soon and go through his presentation. For anybody who has any questions, we will have time for questions and answers at the end of today's presentation. So on the webinar link, you should see an area that is outlined as chat. If you want to click on chat and direct any questions to the organizers. So select organizers, list your question in there, and I will get to it at the end of today's presentation. We'll have some time with Peter to go through. So any questions you want to raise in the presentation, or distance learning in general, or maybe on ExactPath, please do raise them and we'll go through them at the end. So that's enough from me. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to pass over to Peter. So Peter, it's over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to come to this webinar and discuss distance learning at Surat Thani International School. We're going to be focusing a lot on ExactPath, and it's been a key component of our distance learning success so far. We have used other things as well, of course, but ExactPath has really been something that we've relied heavily upon over these past few months. I am open to all questions, and like Derek said, I'll be happy to answer any and all questions at the end of the webinar. So right here on the screen, this is our 4th grade class. They're called the Pandas. You can see them working diligently on their iPads here, working through some ExactPath material. So we jump right in. All right, here's just a little bit about my school. Here's the school itself. That's the main building. There's an administrative building as well, a second building with the classrooms, but this is kind of the front of the school here, and we tried to make it colorful and inviting for people. Down here, this is our team of teachers. There I am right there, in the back. Very happy group of people, teachers and Thai people all working together and it's really supporting each other. So a little bit about me. I am the founder and the director, also the principal. I'm also a teacher, and I'm also a parent at Surat Thani International School. My wife is Thai. She and I started the international school about 6 years ago. Before that, we had a language school that we were running together. I have lived in Thailand for about 19 years, and I've been involved in education that entire time, working in language schools extensively with Thai schools as a teacher there, starting different bilingual programs, working with the administrators of schools. I am originally from the States. I'm from Virginia. And yeah, so Surat Thani to me has been home for the past 19 years. Surat Thani means the city of friendly people. And I found that to be very true. The people here are really outgoing, welcoming, friendly. As we like to say, the smiles are real. And you know, I've always felt very kind of warmly embraced by the people here, and so I've made it my home, and I try to do the best that I can for the students here. Surat is the hub of the South, in that you can kind of access the islands and beaches, those famous vacation destinations of Thailand very quickly from Surat, but it means that people kind of pass through Surat quickly and head off to those vacation destinations. So it's kept the town itself actually very authentically Thai. As a result, there's a lot of really great authentic Thai food. But we are actually the only international school here. The next international school, the nearest international school to us, is about a 3-hour drive away. Now, there are bilingual schools here in town, but we are the only accredited international school. A little bit about the origin of the school. It actually started as a homeschool that I was doing for my son. I took one room at my language school and I converted it into kind of like a homeschool. And over the next, he was about maybe 3.5 when I did that. And over the next 2 years or so, kids kind of kept joining, and then some younger siblings of those kids joined, and it just kind of grew from there. Before my son entered first grade, my wife and I decided that we were going to open up our own international school. And when we did, we had, in that first year, we had 4 classes. We had 24 students. So it was small. And, we didn't have a lot of resources and materials. Like I said, Surat Thani is kind of a little hub, but it's very authentically Thai. So there are no English bookstores, for example. Everything that you want to get that's going to be in English has to be carried into town, usually in suitcases. It was a challenge for sure, having any kind of growth, but we did keep growing very steadily. And we are about to enter our 7th year. Coming up in July, our 7th year, and we're going to have about 260 students in about 14 classes. So yeah, we've had a lot of good growth, and classes are full coming up for next term, and we have some good waiting lists, so it's going well. Our current demographics. Now, like I said, Surat Thani is a really authentically Thai town. There are very few expats here. At our school, we have a few students from India, a few students from Pakistan, Taiwan, Sweden. We've had students from Japan as well, Germany. There are some mixed kids here, British Thai, American Thai, but we are about, I would say, 98.5% native Thai students. We actually only have one native English-speaking student in our entire school, and that's my son. So it's a very, we have a lot of Thai students, Thai parents, and as such, there's a lot of Thai culture in our school, which is something I'll come back to in a bit. We use the California curriculum, which is Common Core State Standards. We decided to use that because it's a very accessible curriculum, very user-friendly. It's a very solid approach to education, and we were able to contact them, and they were very helpful in getting us up and running. Our school culture, we try to provide a very immersive environment for our kids because Surat Thani being, like I said, an authentically Thai town, there's very little English outside of our school. And so when our students leave our school, they're speaking Thai, they're hearing Thai, they're basically not hearing or seeing any English, which is an important point that I'll come back to later. But what I like to say is that we are a local international school. We put a strong focus on Thai culture to make sure that the students who are coming to our school don't lose their heritage and their native culture. And that's something that's very, very important to us. Like I said, my wife, who runs the school with me, she's Thai, and these are very important things to her. So in addition to Thai culture, we do also focus on creativity. critical thinking skills, and strong communication skills. All right. Coming back to local culture, like I said, there are very few expats here, and we have very few expats in our school, very few expat parents at our school. So we have a parent population that is very used to the way Thai schools run, which is very different than how we run. There's a lot of marching going on in Thai schools. We don't really do any marching, for example. So that can cause conflict and difficulties sometimes. Overall, I would say that our parents are very supportive of what we do. They're not very familiar with what we do, though, or even why we're doing it. A good example of that would be when we started map testing. We needed the students to bring in iPads to do the testing on, and the first year that we did it, there were a lot of parents that were very upset. They couldn't understand what map testing was or why we were doing it. They didn't like the idea that the kids were bringing an iPad to school at all. There were petitions. It was quite an ordeal, but we stuck with it and we kept going. And now we've been doing map testing for 3 or 4 years, and now it's a very smooth process, and the resistance is gone. So at this school, we try to incorporate a fair amount of technology. The kids bring in their own iPads. We do have school iPads as well. They are working on iPads pretty much every day, from maybe age 5 to 6 and up through age 12. The different technology that we use within our school, different platforms that we use an SIS called GradeLink. We also use Seesaw. We use Line Messenger. Also the aforementioned map testing. We've also, since we went to distance learning, we've been using Padlet a lot, as well as a program called Epic, a math program called Prodigy. Of course, everybody loves Zoom. Hooray for Zoom. And then kind of our crown jewel, which is ExactPath. So in terms of ExactPath, what made us decide to start using it? Well, the first part was finding it, and I found it almost by accident. I was exploring the NWEA map testing site, looking for any kinds of additional data that we could use at our school. And I found a link for organizations that were connected with map testing. And one of them was Edmentum ExactPath. And I didn't really know what it was, but I clicked on the link and I sent in the information that I was curious about it, and very quickly I was contacted by ExactPath, by Adele, who works there, and she was extremely helpful, informative, friendly, patient with all of my questions, and I learned that ExactPath basically takes the map testing data for each student and it creates an individualized learning path for them, so that they are able to continue studying and improving within their academics to improve their map testing score. That was really music to my ears. There were a lot of key reasons once I understood what ExactPath was. There were a lot of reasons why we decided to use it. So the first one, and the most important one for us at the beginning, was that I saw that this was an opportunity for reinforcement of English. The fact that the students were going to be able to have this individualized learning path for them, that they were going to be able to work on in school, but even more importantly at the beginning for us, outside of school. Like I said, the students don't have any real access to English or even English materials outside of school. And so to have this learning platform available for them at home, in a restaurant, wherever they bring their iPad, and they can study pretty much any time, and they can get English anytime, that was a huge thing for us. The second reason was what I mentioned before about the individualization. Now, this is something that everybody strives for, but it can be very tricky to pull off within a classroom. Now, our classroom is maxed out at 20, but as I said, most of our classrooms are at 20. And so we're able to create small groups and work with small groups of kids at a time, but the real individualization for us really comes through exact paths. And that's really an important thing for us, because we know each kid at the school, we understand their strengths, we understand their weaknesses, but exact path will actually get in there and do a hands-on kind of addressing of those strengths and weaknesses on a very progressive basis. The next reason was differentiation. And again, this is something that a lot of schools strive for, but it's hard to pull off. It's hard to get that equity in the classroom. But by the kids using exact path, and we can monitor how they're doing, we can move towards that equity in the classroom. The next reason was that this style of learning, the fact that the students could access their learning path on their own time, and there were videos that they could watch and review those videos and have things to read and have things to answer. This was just a different way for the students to learn. It allowed them really to do it at their own pace, which was very important for us. It was the first time that we were really able to address that need. Since then, we've added platforms, like I've said, that address that, but Exact Path was the first one to really open that door for us. Flexibility was another reason. As I mentioned before, the ability of the student to study at school or at home was really big, and something that the students as well as the parents really appreciated, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. Versatility was another reason. The platform does offer a huge amount of variety. I mean, obviously there are the learning paths that the students engage with on a day-to-day basis if they want. But there are also assignments that the teacher can give out for students that are standardized and specific to what the kids are learning. And then there are also challenges that teachers can create within the program that motivate the students to engage with it more and study harder. Data tracking was another key reason why it's hard for us as a relatively new school it was hard at that time to really have the data tracking that we were trying to pull off. Exact Path really kind of opened that door for us, and it does it for you, which was really, really nice. And it was something that kind of started us off on the path of data tracking and data collection, and now we're much further down that path as a result. And finally, those were all kind of the reasons to start, but we had a reason to continue with them. So those are the key reasons to do that first year, and all of those key reasons came to light and were fulfilled during that first year of working with Exact Path. And then last year we extended for another 3-year contract, and that was again because of the results. We saw MAP score improvement directly proportional to the amount that the students were using Exact Path, which was huge. Some students had just explosive growth in their MAP scores. Another result was there was a high level of parental comfort afforded by the fact that even though their child is not in school, they can still have the ability to learn English and to study English. And then there was finally the school's control of facilitating the language of English outside of school, which again was really important to us because, like I said, over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, our kids, unless they really make an effort, are probably not hearing a single word of English. And so we can put those assignments in ExactPath or give them a challenge, and they can work on it over the weekend. We can make sure that they're still hearing English and keeping that kind of immersive environment going over the weekend. The implementation of ExactPath at our school was very, very smooth because we had a lot of support and assistance from Danny, who worked very closely with every part of the implementation. She did the training for me. She did the training for our teachers. She was available whenever we had any questions. It was just a very smooth, very pleasant process. I would say that in the early days of using ExactPath at Surat Thani International School, the teachers were not quite used to it. It was difficult for them to integrate into the classroom. They weren't used to the program or the platform, and it wasn't a natural kind of go-to for them. And so we did focus a lot on letting the parents know about it and letting them know that this was something that the students could use at home. And then in the early days, we did make a schedule of when to use it in the classroom. So I asked all teachers to set aside at least 30 to 45 minutes per week, just a bit to get the students going in it. And again, a lot of reinforcement with the parents to have them use it at home. So that brings us to how we use it in the classroom. So I'm glad to say that we are increasingly integrating it into the classroom. We use it a lot for learning centers and for differentiation in the classroom. Teachers are engaging much more with assignments and challenges, and also allowing those assignments and challenges to go outside of the classroom for continued learning at home over vacation breaks and so on. We have seen from the current use, like I said, we've seen big leaps in the map testing, but we've also seen increased confidence from students in the classroom because they've been able to familiarize themselves frequently with the language and with the academic skills that are presented. And so because they have more confidence in the classroom, they are typically even better behaved. Our students are always really well behaved and sweet and kind, but this, their kids are kids, but this leads to even more kind of cooperative behavior and focused attention within the classroom. And because of that more focused attention, it leads to better learning. And so it's kind of an upward curve. It's really wonderful to see. Some of the benefits kind of using ExactPath that were almost a little bit of a surprise were just a continued communication and support from Danny and Adele, who I said were the ones that facilitated the implementation and usage of ExactPath at our school. They've just really been very very attentive and helpful throughout every school year. You can see here, that's me standing there giving a speech at a conference in Bangkok, and I was talking about the different platforms that my school uses, and I was talking about Line, and everyone was familiar with Line, and I was talking about Zoom, and everyone's familiar with Zoom, and GradeLink, and some people were familiar with GradeLink, and I'm talking about map testing, and everyone's familiar with map testing, and then I talked about Edmentum and ExactPath, and almost nobody knew it. Nobody raised their hand. And that was the moment when I realized that this has actually really set our school apart as something that we've been able to really forge ahead with our students and provide them with something that very few schools are really engaging in. I mean, there are a huge amount of benefits to the parents and to the students with this platform, but there's also the benefit to the school so far has been, well, it really put us kind of in a league apart, which was really kind of rewarding to see that taking that step led to something that differentiated us from everybody else. And then finally, kind of another, it shouldn't have been a surprise, but it doesn't really occur to you, is ExactPath provides year-round learning for the students. So we just finished our school year, and instead of worrying about giving out summer packets and things like that, we have given the students assignments in ExactPath. We are able to use it over vacations, long and short, and so it's a really great usage of the platform. So a lot of these things have been pre-COVID-19. Obviously, what we've been talking about so far has been within the classroom and some outside. So I'll talk a little bit about how we've been using it during COVID-19. Now, Thailand went to distance learning March 18th, and it happened very fast. There was almost no warning that it was going to come. I remember driving back from the beach Sunday evening and getting a call that it might be happening, and then Tuesday night everything was closed, canceled. Calls from the government came through saying, nope, that's it. And so everyone was scrambling to figure out, well, how are we going to move everything online, and what can we do? What's going to be the best way to do it? And we had ExactPath, which provided a platform that was already up and running, that the students already had familiarity with, that the parents already knew, and it gave us more time to get our act together in terms of how to do additional remote learning. But ExactPath really carried us through those first 3 or 4 days of learning remotely. Parents were kind of upset and very worried about what was happening and what they should do. And we said, okay, go work on ExactPath with your student. Tell them to open up their iPad and start working. And that did it. During COVID-19, teachers, including myself, I've been giving out weekly assignments, which have made life very, very easy, weekly challenges, which made it very easy for myself and the students. Everything in ExactPath is auto-checked, and you can see their performance easily. You can see their data easily. In a sense, it's almost too easy, because teachers can sometimes forget to follow up. They get busy with worksheets and things like that, and working with students on other things. So they forget to sometimes come back and check the student's work in ExactPath, because the student can work almost entirely on their own and continue on their learning path. The system is very, very smooth and runs very, very well. During COVID-19, there have been a lot of challenges, right? And one of the challenges that every school has faced is the involvement of the parents. The students are no longer in school, and they're at home, and as such, the parents are responsible for the children, and they're responsible then for getting the children to engage with whatever learning they have. And that has been a real challenge for them, especially for many of our parents, because they don't speak English. And so how are they supposed to help their kids? And again, ExactPath is done in such a way that this gave the parents a real reprieve. They were able to have their students sit down and work with ExactPath, which they can do on their own. And then parents did not have to teach for that period of time. They didn't have to supervise. The student was engaged on their own. So that really addressed a key concern that many parents had. Of course, parents still had to help with other areas, but they knew that, okay, every day they can rely on ExactPath and know that their student is engaged on their own and learning, which was which was great. It gave a lot of comfort, especially to me as the kind of the administrator of the school. I always thought of ExactPath as kind of like a warm security blanket for myself and the parents, that at any time things are bad, just kind of wrap yourself up in ExactPath, everything's going to be okay. And also during COVID-19, another, I think, main problem of learning and teaching remotely is, how to measure the outcomes. How do you measure that the student has actually progressed? How do you know that they've moved forward with their academics? And again, by using ExactPath, we can see their progress. We can see that they're moving through their learning path, and we can see the standards tied to the learning path, and we can go in and analyze that data and see that the students, yes, are actually moving forward. And that's a main benefit during this time, because it's, like I said, it's very hard to measure outcomes with younger students during remote and distance learning. So our future plans for using ExactPath. So as I said, right now, we do have a lot of use of it in the classroom. However, it almost runs in support of classes, but it almost runs separately. There isn't a whole lot of alignment at this point. Now some teachers have started to connect ExactPath material to in-class lessons, but that's a spotty thing. So that is our next step, to have ExactPath run together with our in-class material and have greater classroom integration of the platform, and align it more with our curriculum, and make sure that the students are moving through our curriculum and moving through ExactPath along the same lines. We're also going to be looking much more at the data provided by ExactPath to make sure that we're hitting that data-driven instruction. And as always, it's an important part of our contingency plan. So we're scheduled to open up again in Thailand. Schools are allowed to open up on July 1st. We will be opening up July 29th. And so between the 1st and the 29th, everyone's expecting almost that there's going to be a second wave. If there is a second wave and everybody has to go back online, then ExactPath is a big part of our contingency plans. We also have big plans, actually, to recognize the success that the students are achieving in ExactPath, and having school-wide assemblies someday, not now, social distancing, but charts in the classroom, in the cafeteria, showing student progress, student improvement, newsletters that give marks on how well the students have progressed through their learning paths. We've been experimenting with news reports from the students, and we will make those that success in ExactPath part of our standard news reports, so to speak, so that it becomes a really integrated part of the school. And overall, we plan on using ExactPath to boost the overall efficiency and growth of our school. Like I said, there are so many elements of it that are helpful to us that the closer we tie it to the school and the more we utilize the program, the more success and the more growth we are seeing. So it's been a real game changer for us, both in class and outside of class. The last thing I would say is we've had some parents due to the financial difficulties presented by COVID-19. Some of them are going to have to leave the school, and they called us and they let us know that they weren't going to be able to continue next year. And the one thing that they asked for was whether they could still use ExactPath. They still wanted to be able to have access to the platform, and whether there was any way that we could facilitate that or allow that. And that's something for later. But I think that says a lot about how effective the program is and how comfortable parents feel with it. So that is my talk there about distance learning at Surat Thani International School. I hope it was helpful. I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Thanks, Peter. That was really, really useful. Really appreciate it. I think you've touched on a lot of points there, that schools only in Thailand or in Asia, but schools globally have the same types of challenges that you brought up. You know, areas like the introduction of technology for the first time. Not only for students, in fact, often it's the students that pick up technology a lot quicker than teachers. When you're introducing a new element of technology into a classroom, sometimes, like you mentioned, it can take a while for the parents, or sorry, for the teachers to warm up to it, get to understand it, and have confidence in integrating it into their classroom and their teaching and learning strategies. One of the areas you touched on, there's a couple of questions that have come in, but one in particular that you touched on was around the number of students that you have that are English as a second language. So I think you said about 98%, is that right?
Well, I mean, really for out of the, so last year we had 215 students. Out of those 215 students, English was a second language for 214 of them.
Right, okay. So that's a challenge in itself.
Yes.
And the questions that have come in is, you know, how easy has it been to introduce a program like this with such a large group of students where English is their second language? And I presume, you know, as a school, you're K through grade 6, so that obviously brings different challenges depending on the age of the student also. So how easy was it to integrate this type of program, with bearing in mind the number of students who are ELL, and how from your perspective as well, were parents able to embrace? As you said, I think there was a challenge really from a parent's perspective also, because the vast majority of parents don't have English either.
Right. Great questions. Building up the international school has been the hardest thing I've ever done. It was a big challenge. Parents felt comfortable with it more or less because they knew of my reputation as a teacher from my language school, which I had opened up in 2004 and had some good success with. And so I wasn't a completely unknown entity to them. And also the homeschool itself had experienced a lot of success with kids coming and basically walking out speaking English. And we accomplished that by really immersing the kids as much as possible in the language. The real trick is to try to get them to speak English with each other. And so we have pretty strict no Thai rules at my school. I've even created a Thai zone where if the kids want to speak Thai, that's okay, but they have to go to the Thai zone and hang out over there. And so, you know, they help each other remember that, and they really try to speak English with each other. And that makes them more engaged in the lessons because they want to be able to know how to talk with their friends. It is a challenge. We start with most kids actually around in nursery. So we have everything from nursery, which is for us 2 years old, all the way up to grade 6. And a lot of our students have started in the nursery class, or what we call pre-kindergarten for us. That kind of daily exposure and immersion in English has also been really important over the years. I would say until the kids get to second grade, they are primarily ELL students. By the end of second grade, we aim to have them more or less bilingual. This second grade for us is a very big year. There's a lot of very rigorous academic material for that age group. and there's a lot of it. And so it really challenges the students and pushes them quite hard. And so that's kind of our aim with every student that comes through, is that by the end of grade 2, they're ready to engage fully with all of the academics that are coming up and that are, significantly more challenging. In terms of the parents, yeah, I mean, we've had all kinds of experiences. I had a parent come in and tell me in a big meeting that everything above 80% should be an A, and everything below 80% should be fail. So it's like either you pass or you fail. And she tried to rally all the other parents, and apparently, because this is how grading is done in some of the Thai schools, I told her, no, we can't do that. So I have many stories like that, of parents who, like I said, they're used to the Thai way of doing things and the Thai system, the Thai school system. But one of the main reasons that we opened up the international school in the first place was we wanted to offer an alternative to the Thai schools in town, because that's it. That's all there is here. And there are a lot of schools, but they all kind of operate in the same way. And we wanted to give students a different way of learning. We wanted to offer the parents an alternative. And if the parents aren't really on board, we usually just give them some time, and they come around. It can be hard for them at first. So far, we haven't had any real. We haven't had to, we haven't had to ask anybody to leave the school, although it's come close a few times. The parents do recognize that this is a real opportunity for their kids in terms of learning English and really excelling in the language. And also, we really care a lot about the kids. We have a lot of activities for them, and we really try to make sure that they enjoy coming to school. And so, more so than the parents, we focus on the kids, and the kids usually don't want to leave school. And so the parents, as a result, they know that their kids love coming, and so they pretty much relax at that point when they see that their kids love school, love coming to school, love learning. At that point, a lot of the problems are solved.
Great, and I would imagine, like anywhere else, when the parents see the leaps and bounds that the students are improving grade on grade or year on year, that gives them the confidence within the school as well. So the longer the students are in the school, the more they can see vast improvements in terms of their reading or math skills. Then you get less and less queries from parents, because they've got more and more confidence in you and the school itself, because they can see the actual results within the students.
Exactly, yes.
One more question has come in, and then there's, I think, one or two questions that I could probably answer. And it's around just differentiation with distance learning based on the grades of students. So it's not necessarily linked directly to exact path, but it's, if you could explain just a little bit about how you're supporting students at the moment through COVID-19 in the earlier years versus maybe your 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. I'm assuming, based on the kind of conversations that I've been having with various schools, that they're using something like exact path throughout the day, but it's not like they've got a full day of live lessons where you have a teacher providing a lesson for a student all the way through the day. It's broken up by using various supplementary tools, and then they're targeting intervention based on their performance within those tools. Would that be right? Or what is your strategy as a school, working with the younger year students versus the students who are maybe in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade?
No, that's pretty much how we approach it. Obviously, we have exact path available for them. We use Seesaw, and we use what's called Seesaw Class, and that we can post instructional videos, we can post assignments that go to each student, and then the students can work on those assignments and are then sent back to the teacher right there on Seesaw, and the teacher's able to see the assignment and check in with the student, either in small groups on Zoom or individually on Zoom, or sometimes online, line messenger through the video function there. The younger the student, the more challenging it becomes. Nobody has yet figured out the best way for the very young students to really learn. We've had success with kindergarten, ages 5 to 6 and above, and again, those are the ages using ExactPath. Younger than 5 to 6, that's been a real challenge. Yeah, I mean, ages 5 to 6, and then up from there, there have been a variety of platforms used. Some teachers relied more on Padlet for the students to access their assignments and links and things like that. Like I said, most went with Seesaw, but for a lot of them, it was kind of a combination of Seesaw and Line and Zoom, Epic. It's a bit of you kind of have to know the personalities of the class, of the students in the class, and then figure out really what's going to be the best way to reach that student and kind of hold their attention. Because it's hard to hold students' attention on Zoom for more than, even the older ones, after about 30 minutes, they kind of start giving up.
Yeah, that's the kind of experience that I've come across as well, just from working with different schools. And yeah, the strategies implemented are really around the students themselves within that grade level, what they're comfortable with, but also what the parents are comfortable with, because obviously in your situation, parents can't do that much work with the students if their English level is not proficient. So you have that additional challenge to deal with as well. But
yeah, that's been a big thing for us over with remote learning. The parents have really struggled because, as you said, they had most parents really dislike online learning in the first place. They want their kids in school, which is what we want as well. But for our parents, how are they supposed to help their students at home with the academic material when they don't even speak the language? And like I said, the comfort zone that they had was letting the student work with ExactPath, because then that helps the student really understand what they're supposed to do and what's the instruction that's happening through ExactPath.
Yeah, and one of the actual follow-up questions that come in, which I can probably answer, but I think it links in very well to what you've just said, is do the teachers have to align content to students, and how does it change as a student is working through it? And I'll ask that one very quickly. So just with ExactPath, once you enter in the NWA or map data, you do get an individualized learning path of content based on the gaps in learning for that student. But as the student is working independently through that content, it adapts and changes as they're working. So the teacher does not have to align content to the student, it's automatically aligned. And as they work through it, if they're finding it particularly easy and they're working through the content at an easy pace, it becomes more and more difficult, more and more challenging for the students. Similarly, for students who've maybe fallen behind and need to catch up, it starts at a level where that student is. So it's taking the data, it's outlining exactly where that student is, and it's giving them content based on their individual needs, and that adapts as they start working through it throughout the year. Another question, I think this will be the last one, has just come in around what subject areas ExactPath covers, and just to outline, it covers math, reading, and language arts, are the 3 areas it covers, and it's from grades K through 12. I think that is it for now, Peter. I mean, thank you so much for your time and efforts, and for sharing your experience, not only with ExactPath, but your experience within the school itself, how you've helped to build and develop the school, and how you have coped and dealt with the challenges of COVID-19 over the last couple of months. And I'm sure you will continue to deal with those challenges as they come forward, and we'll see what happens if there's a second wave. But we're all hoping that schools will be able to reopen over the coming weeks and months, and students can get back into the classroom with their teachers. For anybody on the webinar who would like to get in touch with us directly to discuss ExactPath, please do reach out to us. We will send an email to all attendees or anyone who's received a recording of this with all the contact information you need. So please reach out. And I'm sure, Peter, if anyone has any additional questions, we can forward them on to you. And if you're happy to, we'll ask you to reply to them directly. If they have any questions in relation to your school, we'll share that information with you. But just to finish up, I want to say thanks very much to Peter. I really appreciate your time, and thanks to everybody who has taken the time to dial into this webinar. We hope we have found it as useful and insightful as we have here at Edmentum. Thank you very much, and we hope to speak to you soon.